Hi there, my name is DJ Waldow, and I turned 50 on February 23rd, 2026. So, for the next 50 days, I'm going to share one thing that I've learned over the almost 50 years on this planet. Today's thing, number 23, is we need to talk about mental health. A couple of years ago, I found myself walking around the streets of my neighborhood crying uncontrollably. That's right. This happy guy, walking down the streets, absolutely crying for no reason. I had no idea why I was sad. Well, it turns out I was depressed. And I kind of knew that I was depressed, even though I didn't want to admit it. Why? Because this was the fourth time that I had been depressed in almost the past 20 or so years. The first time I got depressed, I had no idea why I was so sad. I was teaching eighth grade. I did an episode recently or a thing about imposter syndrome. Well, I was teaching eighth grade and I thought I was an imposter. I thought I was a fraud. I didn't know anything about American history. All these kids were smarter than me. And I think that was the thing that triggered my first depression. At that time, I saw therapists and I went on medicine, and eventually I got better. I wasn't depressed anymore. And I have always been somebody who didn't believe in medicine. Not that I don't believe in medicine. I believe in science and health and all those things, but I didn't believe in like being on medication for long term. I didn't want something to dictate how I felt. I'll come back to that. So I got off the medicine. I stopped seeing a therapist. And lo and behold, a couple of years later, I had another depressive episode. My third depressive episode, I was actually biking to work in San Francisco and I physically couldn't move. I had to call Christina that day. She had to get off work and drive in to pick me up in San Francisco. And then the story I told earlier, I was walking down the street. This was just a few years ago. I was my late 40s, walking down the street crying. And this time, I happened to get a call from Megan Phillips, my neighbor and dear friend. She could tell something was up. And she basically made me come join her for a little mini happy hour it turns out it was a beautiful Friday afternoon. So I sat there with her. I cried. I cried with the friend of hers that was there that I didn't even know. And I tell you all this because I think we need to talk more openly about mental health. I know it's deep. I know it's heavy. I know it makes a lot of people uncomfortable, but it's so important. So many people today in 2026 and really over the last 5 or 10 years are suffering from some sort of mental health issue, whether it's depression, anxiety, anything else. And we need to be more open about it. We need to normalize it. And we need to understand why it's happening. Again, nothing I'm going to tell you today has to do with medical advice, science, or anything like that. I can just tell you the experiences I've had. And as I tell people all the time, the only thing that is positive about being depressed is when I get into that state again, I know what it's like and I know it's temporary. Remember that episode about everything is temporary. I know that feeling, that sadness is temporary. I also now know and recognize when I'm starting to go down from just, I had a bad day or it's been kind of a bad week to I'm really sad about something and I can't figure out why I'm sad. So that's been helpful. I probably should have mentioned at some point, this is going to be a really heavy episode. So if you're listening at this point and you need to take a break, that's fine. Come back. But I think it's an important one. So one of the things I've been trying to do over the last couple of years is speak out about mental health more and more. I've recorded videos while I'm walking in my neighborhood, which is, I never thought about that, but sort of interesting that that's where my last depressive episode was or kind of culminated in. And I've been walking, I've been sharing stories about what I've gone through. And the one thing, and I always, by the way, every time I publish something like that, I always have somebody reach out to me and say, oh my God, I've been through this too. Or, and I'm, there's a couple people that I kind of regularly check in on that are having some mental health issues. And I just think that's so important as a community, as a civilization, that we are helping people around us who are going through something similar. Another thing I want to say about this is credit to my wife. Well, first of all, my wife's been with me. I've known her for 24 years and she has, bless her heart, been with me for all 4 of those episodes and she's stayed with me. But what she's really made me realize is that, I got this pattern of going on medicine and then off medicine and then seeing a therapist and not seeing a therapist. And she finally said to me, what are you doing? Why don't you stay on the medicine? Why don't you keep seeing the therapist? Like that's what has got you to be healthy. I thought, yeah, but I don't want to be on the medicine. I don't want it to control me and all these other things. And she said, yeah, but people are on medicine for diabetes, for back pain, for all sorts of different things. You're just on it for your brain. There's something happening in your brain that you need medicine and therapy for. And as she always is, she was right. I've been on the same medicine now. I've, changed it here and there a little bit, the titrating here and there, but I've been on the same basic medication now that I take every single day, 2 different pills, Lexapro and Wellbutrin. Again, not advocating for these necessarily, but that's the cocktail mix, if you will, that has worked for me. I still do see a therapist. I highly recommend that everybody should see a therapist if you can afford it. I know it's a luxury. I would love it to be built into our healthcare system someday, but that's a whole other episode. But I take the medication daily. I see a therapist, not as often as I used to, not weekly, not monthly, every few months just to kind of check in. And I could not recommend it anymore. So I share all this with you because I do think it's important that we talk about mental health. Well, it brings me sadness and joy that I'm seeing more of this kind of stuff on social media, and I'm seeing and hearing more celebrities and people in the media talking about it. I mean, it's sad, obviously, on the one hand, that people are going through this. There's nothing pleasant about it. But I'd like that people are talking about it a little bit more. If you know me, you know that I really do truly enjoy helping people. And when it comes to this stuff, especially, I will always be a resource. I don't care if I don't know you. I'm happy to talk through it. I'm happy to chat, text, whatever, meet in person, and at least be another person to speak through whatever it is you're going through. All right, that's it. We need to talk about mental health. Obviously, it was not my normal chipper self during this because this is a very heavy, deep topic. But if you like this episode, if there's somebody that this resonates with, that you think could hear these words, please share it with them. Go to social media, like it, comment, ask me questions, DM me, PM me, text me, whatever the case is. And I will see you tomorrow for a more uplifting episode. Thank you.